you know, what do you see as the future of that? Like, how does the metaverse promote itself?
There was someone who was saying, how do you make 100,000 in Upland in a year? And I said, you don't do it in Upland, right?
Yeah.
Upland is not where you go and you make 100,000. Upland is the vehicle for you to be creative and do something that resonates with others and take advantage of the community economic model, right? Where you engage the community and everything else.
Hmm.
And so when we talk about kind of promoting the metaverse, promoting Upland, promoting any metaverse, I've always said it starts with the community and understanding the community, right? And the community can't just be the little, the little Discord groups you have.
Nah.
You have to be able to connect outside of the Discord group, because the community is actually much larger than the Discord group. That's the challenge, is finding ways to make it resonate outside of your little Discord, because that's an echo chamber.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's funny that you say that, and that's why I chuckled, because with Bored Apes, they understood their buyer, I guess, the person who would buy a digital form of a piece of art in crypto, right? It was the crypto crowd, the crypto bros, the crypto gals, and it was just that crowd. But what caught the zeitgeist of the world was the fact that we all understand buying tickets to something and getting access. They said, buy one of these and you'll be able to go to a yacht party. Now that was applying that metric of buying access to something, which resonated to everybody because it was self-promoting and saying, like, did you hear about that yacht club thing? Like, what is that? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, this word of mouth. That was ingenious. We did see, in a way, the traditional form of promoting metaverse or a metaverse project with what Nike did with Sandbox. What was that worth it? It was, if I remember right, a $300 million campaign, where now that store is open. I don't know what sales are. It's been kind of quiet out of there.
Yeah. And in OpenSea, you now have the kind of little metric, and you saw that only like 13% of OpenSea is owned by unique visitors. So for-profit industry is trying to figure out how to get into the metaverse, right? Netflix just did a whole big thing, big promotion. I think they spent like 20 million to promote their metaverse docu-series or something that they're doing. And they use the metaverse to promote this docu-series about the metaverse, which has nice kind of... It connects. It has right. It's meta, and so I think that there's opportunity for profit companies to learn. It definitely is going to be the new entertainment kind of model of what's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot of starter steps, and there's definitely going to be pitfalls, and there's definitely going to be bad actors. But I really do believe there's also a great opportunity for advancement in technology and how people engage. I think people will find the tool, and it's a tool just like any other technology. They will find ways to use it for really good things, and they'll find ways to use it to just milk you as much as possible. I love the article you posted from Big Think, I think it was, about the digital rights. The immersive rights. Yeah, that was an amazing article. I've been sharing it to people. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I read it too. I follow the Chomsky model of trying to read 100 periodicals a day, and it comes across my news stream, and it resonated because we're creating communities, and we have our own rights within our communities, right? But these little bubbles, as you call them, these echo chambers, have to be able to reach out to other echo chambers and other bubbles and connect, as we call it in Upland nodes, into this one synergetic movements for Upland as a whole, then for the metaverse, and then other projects and NFTs. At what point does it need to come into play that we have to have a level playing field, certain understanding of what it takes to be able to work in this space? Like you said, they're going to be bad actors. We have bad actors in real life,
Exactly.
But we have set of laws.
Hey, TNT was created to make life easier for minors. That was what it was created for, right? I mean, how it got used? Gatling gun. You know the story behind the Gatling gun?
No, go ahead.
Dr. Gatling created this horror weapon that when they started in action would realize how bad war is and no one would want to have war again.
Yeah.
Well, instead, it got used and led to the creation of machine guns and everything else. And humanity is always going to find ways to be good and bad.
Yes. Yeah, no, true. And in this space, I think currently the decentralized aspect, like I said, we're just one node of many nodes in the Upland metaverse. We'll be able to police, at least for the time being, the majority of people. Because, like, for example, if you're a Buck founder, especially, but if you're an active user of the Buck server, the Bored Uplander Club server, you've come to understand what our culture is, right? What we're about. And so a lot of that does ideally, kind of like in the greater sense of society, influence how you then go about in interacting with the rest of the metaverse society in Upland, right?
And I think it's interesting how a lot of the groups are starting to get their kind of flavor and what their niche is, and people are finding where they fit, where they don't fit. Mm-hmm. Like, Ben and Udo, they have a very specific type of culture. Bored Uplander Club, you have your culture. Latinos Unidos, they have their culture, right? Yeah. And so I'm seeing all that, and it's great. But to your point, you got to remember that that's one node, one bubble, one echo chamber. Yeah. And if you really want to be able to go beyond what you're doing, and we were talking about, how do you take it to the next level, right? How do you take Upland, your Upland engagement to the next level? Well, you kind of escalate step by step, right? So it's you as an individual, then maybe you in Discord, in the Upland Discord server, and trying to get past all of the, visit my property kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Then you find the server that is out there. They probably have thousands of servers now, right? I mean, I think over 2,000 unread messages from the number of Discord servers I'm in, right? Yeah. But then from there, you have to find ways to kind of go beyond that. And so Twitter, I've seen quite a bit. Reddit has a lot of good information. Catching these videos, the podcasts, everything else. It's and then finding ways to connect with individuals that take it to the next level. And there's not a lot of individuals who are taking it to the next level. And so it's not that you have to make a huge, massive network. It's just find what you want to do. Everyone is doing something a little different. Some people want to get involved with Thank Me Later's UpX World. Other people want to get involved with Upland Gaming and what that group is doing. And so there's different things that are happening. And this is how you start to, change it from a game to a Web3 gamified marketplace.
It's a mouthful, but people will sit there. They'll be like, okay, I get it now. All right. I mean, at least that's been my experience, and it's amazing that you mentioned all of that, because my conversation with Blue Rain also talked about how the community aspect. And I think it's going to probably be a recurring theme with a lot of the conversations I have in Philosopher's Stone is, wow, yeah, we've kind of transitioned from I'm going to accumulate as much as I can to what can I do with everybody else with all that I've accumulated. Because, as the culture began to crystallize within the Bored Uplander Club, it allowed everybody to gain enough trust where now we have a devoted channel for collection swapping. We're still doing that, even though there's the regulations.
No one does it anymore.
Yeah, nobody cares to do it, because who's going to trust somebody enough to hold something for 30 days that is that valuable, right? Well, like you said, these bubbles are incubators. It incubates a certain kind of uplander, I think, and then connecting that immersive rights article, I think that's where eventually all these different nodes will have. And in a way, I think that's what the good intentions of the the UMPC, the Upland Metaverse Players Council. I think that's what the good intentions of that was, to be able to have a singular node for the ethics that everybody agrees upon. That is a node or a community. Politics obviously and organization scuttled that, but I think the eventually something will be born out of everybody's desire to say, this is kind of all of our standards. Some might have different standards, but overall, because we're trying to, in the Upland metaverse space, bring massive value to the Upland metaverse space. And so let's all kind of get together to put something out.
And I think that's where the challenge kind of comes in, because Web3, and I come from the nonprofit space, right? And so in Web3, I've equated Web3 to grassroots with technology, right? Yes. So in nonprofit space, you have a lot of grassroots effort where it's bottom up kind of thing, right? Where individuals band together, individuals kind of get, they want to lobby on a specific subject. A lot of times it's the individuals in the community that will drive what they want to lobby on, or what kind of advocacy they want to do, or what kind of benefits they want to implement, right? And that's where that whole grassroots kind of kicks in. With Web3, I see a lot of that too. And I've seen some interesting definitions of Web3, right? Where it goes from 2D to 3D, right? And so they really are very much focused on the technology element of it. I think that the value of Web3 is not that it goes from 2D to 3D engagement, but that it goes from top down to bottom up engagement. And I'm not talking about just content creators. I'm talking about community engagement.
Oh, true. And I think when I talk about Web3, I always like to drop in the word immersiveness, because I think a lot of people understand the connection to community with immersiveness, because if I'm in something, that means others can join me in that something, and therefore we can all be in something. And concerts are immersive. Movies, when that's a full crowd, that's immersive. And humans have always tried to be able to augment our reality with immersive experiences like that, because then we can go home, remember it, replay it in our minds. Luckily now we have the technology to record it and replay it over and over again, stuff like that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm thinking of what we were just saying about how a lot of people describe Web3 as moving from 2D to 3D. And then you mentioned movies and immersive. And it brought me back to the 60s and 50s when 3D technology first came out, and how it was supposed to bring you into the movie kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And so it's really kind of interesting to kind of think of it from that perspective of 3D is immersive. It's not just about it's immersive not just from the physical immersion, but also from the community immersion and being able to be together in a place. I like that. That's good, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I think that's what to tie in the URL and other events that Bored Uplander Club is trying to do, is that's what we're trying to bring as the one aspect of Uplander generated value to Upland content and Upland assets is the community aspect, because racing is fun individually because we certain individuals own the cars, but we're bringing the community aspect by beginning to create YouTube videos. I finally figured out a good format to be able to put together a nice polished thing. And same thing with the concerts. We already know that as an immersive experience. Let's now
Right.
immerse. They're talking about meta. Immerse ourselves in that immersiveness or in that immersion.
Well, and I like that you brought up the, in the racing and racing as an individual versus community and bringing the community in. One of the things that I've always said, the difference between URL and Upland Racing is that in Upland Racing, you have a function, you have a feature of the game where you can go in, get in the car and race it. Correct. Right? And eventually you might even be able to race against 2 other people or 3 other people, whatever it is, right? Great. That is not community, right? That's just you playing a game.
Correct.
And one of the things I've always said is what we've done in URL is we've taken the feature, the function, but then made that kind of secondary to the bigger community driver, right? And so when we create these tracks with the idea that they're venues, right? They're not just a racetrack, a digital racetrack for you to go and race on, because anyone can create that racetrack at any time in Upland once they allow that feature, right? So people will be able to create the same racetrack that you created just to go and race on it for fun. Yep. Right? It's not going to be locked. It's not going to be protected. It's not a digital right ownership kind of thing. None of that, right? So why create these things when someone else can just use it? Because now you're building a whole community around it, and you're thinking of it as a venue. And that's part of the business plan that we always have people kind of submit is, how are you going to drive people to your neighborhood? How are you going to drive people to your venue? What kind of engagements are you going to do? How are you going to raise funds for the races and everything else? Because you have to think about all of these elements. And when you think of it in that regard, you can actually now start to create. I mean, Elijah, he has massive plans for the Real Node LA, right? I mean, the guy is like, took it to the next level kind of thing, right? But when he has a race week there, it's not just going to be about the race day, it's going to be about the race week and the events that are happening. And people will have to travel to it so that they can go to the layer 2 experience that he has, so they can go to the concert he's hosting that day or whatever it is, right? And that, to me, is where community racing, and again, bringing the community and that community economic model plays, because that's when you have engagement, that's when you have people participating, and that's how you create sustainability.
I agree. Yeah, and it's an interesting model if you mirror it to the real world, because today we're used to the fan experience at like the Super Bowl or the World Series. That wasn't a thing when I was a kid. It was a World Series event. There was maybe a house party down the street, especially down Dodger Stadium, down Lilac, and all those little streets off of Vince Scully. That was the fan experience.
You created your own.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was so good, people monetized it.
Yeah. So now they have these fan experiences, and we're looking to do it, I guess, in reverse, because the actual event isn't what we're wanting, right? It's just a plug and play race game, but we're having to make sure that the user experience, that the spectator experience, is going to be spectacular. And this is a great topic for Philosopher Stone, because we're talking about spectator experience for a video game, right? Not just any video game. Because this isn't like esports. Like even esports, we talk about how gamers really are not like, this is dumb. But we're still having to be able to create the concept that even with this type of gameplay, the user experience can still be like anything else. It can still be exciting, because an AI generated race can be just as unpredictable as 2 kids sitting in front of the monitor or the console.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were very upset that it wasn't a skill-based racing model, but from a economic model for the platform, the game of Upland, the RNG actually plays out better, because anyone can get into racing, and you can build up your skill set. And it's like if you did old school RPGs and so forth, you're not controlling your mech, you're not controlling your dwarf, you're not controlling your elf, whatever it might be. You're using your stats and rolling dice to see what happens, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so but now you have to go and buy the books, you have to go and buy the dice, you have to go and buy the miniatures, you have the map, you have right, you created a whole economic model around that RNG experience. That's what Upland has done, right? If it was you just go and control the car itself, what else, how do you create more economic development around that if it's just a limited number of people will be able to race, kind of thing?
Yeah. For mass adoption, I totally agree. And in a way, that's the crazy genius that is Upland, right? Like, they gave us just enough proof of concept that you can play a racing game here, right? You can use Unity to get the API for how the races function, and possibly amplify it with adding your own track,
Guess what?
adding elements.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is I was going to wait for URL layer 1 and Upland to kind of bring out all of that. But talking to Martin, he was really kind of saying, well, a lot of people are starting to build on layer 2. Why don't you just build on layer 2? And my response to that is, well, then it's not community racing.
Correct.
It's URL racing, and it's just like a racing game. It's
right.
not.
And you're having to
Upland.
You're having to offboard everybody off of the actual platform.